going on, guys? Welcome to episode 17 here on Inspired Stories. We're back highlighting another artist this month for the month of July. I actually chose one of my favorite all-time artists this month, Lupe Fiasco, Chicago hip-hop artist. He's been around now going on 20 years, I believe, in total, if you go back to the mixtape days. And he is pretty much someone that I would credit as really an artist that got me into hip-hop back in the day when I was around 9 years old. And the story I always like to tell is I had the video game NBA Live 07 way back when it first came out for like the original Xbox. And I remember I used to play that game like all the time. And the soundtrack had a lot of different styles of music and everything. Gnarls Barkley was on there, Talib Kweli, and Lupe Fiasco, Kick Push, which was obviously like his first big single, the first single from Food and Liquor, the debut album, that was on there. So that was like my favorite song on the video game. So I just remember playing the game every day and like hearing that song, and I was like, I saw the name, like it would always come up, like it'd say Lupe Fiasco, Kick Push, and I was just like, man, this guy's like really good. Like I had just started kind of listening to different artists in like the genre and everything, and I was like, you know, this guy is like really good, and this song is like a really cool story as well. And so I just started kind of like paying attention to what he was doing. The next year when I was like 10 years old, so this is like 2007, I remember when the song Superstar came out, and that was obviously one of his biggest records still of all time. I think it's one of his only records that has gone gold still. I think he has a couple others as well now. But that song came out and that was like on the radio every single day. I remember being at my grandparents' house. We used to listen to the radio all the time. We used to listen to different types of music and everything, and they would play Superstar at least 4 or 5 times a day back then. This is like the end of 07, middle of 07, end of 07, going into 2008 as well. And it really wasn't until around the time when I was in middle school when I started like digging into Pandora Radio, and I just got my like first iPhone, and I started kind of, you know, finding my own taste in music. I went on to Lupe Fiasco Radio, and I just like went through the back catalog. So like the whole Food and Liquor album, The Cool. This was right after Lasers came out, so I remember listening to Lasers and everything, and that kind of just made me like a bigger fan of his. So it was kind of like that 5-year, you know, early on journey for me. And then ever since then, I've just been following, you know, his music and everything. I remember being in, I think it was my junior year, when Tetsuo and Youth came out, and that album still to me is just incredible. One of my favorite albums, probably of all time. It's definitely still one of my favorites of his. Even before that, freshman year, when Food and Liquor 2 came out, really enjoyed that album. I think it's very slept on. Has a lot of cool songs on it. Yeah, just leading all the way up until nowadays, where, you know, Lupe kind of had a little incident with Atlantic Records for a long time when he was on that label. And he fought very hard to get out of that deal, and he's since been independent for the last 5 years and releasing projects on his own. He did Drogas Light, which I enjoyed, which is kind of just like a mix of different songs that were kind of loose ends that he put on an album. It was more like a mixtape than anything, but it was still like very high quality, just not really like thematically like fully knitted together, I guess. And then Drogas Wave, which was kind of like the biggest thing that he had done at the time, which, God, there's so many great songs. King Nas, which is one of my favorite Lupe songs, Cripple. I mean, there's just so many good ones. It's a very long album. It's like, you gotta kind of like commit a lot of time to it if you want to, you know, get the full experience of that album, but it's very worth it. I thought that all the songs on it were just remarkable, and the whole story that he crafted, you know, thematically was great. And I think what makes Lupe such an incredible rapper is the different themes that he comes up with in his music, whether it be, you know, based on history or nonfiction or whatever, and he kind of just, you know, makes these different stories that people can, you know, follow and through the music. And The Cool was kind of like the first real story that he crafted like that, and there's been a few albums like that. By the time this episode is out, his new album called Drill Music in Zion will be out, which I'm very interested to see what that album is going to be. I really don't know what to expect. The first single, Autobotto, was very good. It was very different. I know that Soundtrack, who has produced a lot of Lupe's biggest records, is going to be producing this whole album. It's 10 songs. So I'm looking forward to seeing, what that's going to be, because Soundtrack is very diverse in his production. If you look at the different albums and you see what songs he's worked on, a lot of them sound kind of similar, but there's a lot of different styles. So I don't know if this album is going to really be, more modern, or kind of just a mix of modern and classic Lupe sounds. I don't know. But either way, I'm sure it's going to be great. I'm just happy to see that he's still releasing music when he was kind of on the fence about, I think, just stepping back and doing his own thing in the art world and doing all kinds of other things that really interest him. But I'm really glad to see that he's still making music and being consistent. Even 2 years ago, he did the House EP with Kaylin Ellis and Virgil Abloh, which was, even great just for like 4 or 5 songs. I was like, this is fantastic. And it was kind of themed around the whole pandemic and everything. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing, what this album is going to entail, and just very appreciative of Lupe Fiasco and his music. I got to see him live in Cleveland back in November. It was actually the Food and Liquor 15th anniversary show, and that was incredible, just to get to see the songs live and just feel the energy and see just all these different people that grew up with that album, or like were from that era, and they all knew the words and everything, and it was great. So I hope I could see him again eventually, in some way, shape, or form. But yeah, I think most people know who he is or have heard of him before. But if you haven't heard of Lupe, go check him out on all platforms. He doesn't really do features nowadays anymore. But his own catalog is really where I think the real meat and potatoes is of his, full discography. So go check him out, whatever you listen to music on, whatever platforms and stuff. And yeah, that was episode 17. Been doing this 17 months now, and I really appreciate everyone that's been watching. And we will be back in August with another producer. As always, I really appreciate all of you for supporting, this channel, for supporting Proven Knowledge, the music, the podcast, everything else. And until next time, we'll see you then.